Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the California Nevada Chat this Friday, September 12th. My name is Nikki Gatch. I'm the Executive Director of the Southern California PGA. And on behalf of our president, Dr. Allison Kurt, as well as our colleagues from the Northern California PGA section, President Nick Bailey and Executive Director Caitlin Doyle, we welcome you today. We've got, again, some great guests lined up for you today. In addition to our legislative update from Craig Kessler, Executive Director of the California Alliance for Golf, we have two great guests with us today to discuss their recent experiences with some of the most recent events, top USGA events that we've hosted here in the state of California. In the past 45 days or so, California has hosted the Women's U.S. Senior Open, the U.S. Amateur, the Walker Cup, this week the Procore PGA Tour event up in Napa, and then both sections will start their Korn Ferry qualifying schools within the next couple of weeks. So busy time for all of us, but been great to highlight our state with some of these top events in California. Joining us today is Pat Hurst. Pat is a six-time LPGA champion, five-time Solheim Cup member, and captain of the Solheim Cup team in 2021. She played her collegiate golf at San Jose State, where she is a member of the San Jose State Sports Hall of Fame. She's also an LPGA and a PGA member and is the reigning 2024 Senior Women's California State Open champion. And Caitlin, I'll hand it over to you to introduce our second guest.
Yeah, well, thank you, Nikki, and good morning, everyone. It's great to be here with you all this Friday. And I have the pleasure of introducing Matt Jordan. So Matt Jordan is a master professional here in the Northern California section. He's currently serving as the director of golf at Olympic Club. He's been there about 3 years. We were very happy when he came here from Florida. Previously, he was at Stream Song Resort out in Florida and has a lot of great experience that he's brought to Northern California. He also serves on our board of directors, our NorCal PGA board of directors, and is also the current co-chair of our mentoring and education committee. So we're honored to have you here this morning, Matt, and we'll kick it off. So first, welcome and thanks for being here. And obviously you had a very big event your way in August 11th through 17th. You hosted the U.S. Amateur at Olympic Club. And I got out there with one of our other staff members on Thursday that week. And it was so great to see you and your team and Olympic Club obviously shine that week. But just want to kick it over to you first, just to kind of have your initial thoughts. And when did the USGA come out? When did they start setting up? When did they start kind of taking over? And maybe lead us down that first.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be with everybody in this panel, and I wish I had some major championships that I have won, Pat, but unfortunately I'm not that great of a golfer anymore, so I don't have that in my resume. But thanks for having me here. Yeah, it was right when I came to the Olympic Club, it was right out of the gate. We started visiting other clubs, and they were doing that prior to this, prior to me, probably 2 years beforehand. We were as a host site or a future host site, we're there to support the other amateur championships that are going on, as well as learn from them and see what we could take from there and institute over at our facility. So I went over to Cherry Hills with our team and spectated that amateur championship, and then also went over to Hazeltine the following year and supported them through that championship. So USGA has really been here probably 3 years prior. Spent a lot more time as we got closer. So a year right immediately after Hazeltine was over, they came over to our site and started visiting with us, and then we started having meetings. By that time, we've already named all of our co-chairs and chairs for our volunteers throughout our membership, and then a general chair for us. His name is Avi Sankar, who's now a PGA associate, but he's our assistant general manager here at the Olympic Club. So he was overseeing all of that, and for me, it was more or less overseeing the merchandising, the practice facilities, the caddies, the outside services, transportation. We thought that it was going to be a great thing to have both courses at the Olympic Club instead of having it at one club like the other two facilities did, and it was at another club after that as a host site. But I kind of think we wish that we could go to two different sites because it's just a lot to have everything here at one site, managing two different golf courses for the championship. So there was a lot going on, but we had a blast doing it.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it's so neat that they invite you, obviously, as the future host site to go check it out before, and I'm sure that that's a huge benefit to your team just to kind of be able to see it run. And um, how often or how much was your staff really involved with like day to day operations during the event? Like, what how from your staff perspective, what were you guys doing mainly during the week?
Yeah, a lot to be honest with you. So I mean, even though the championship was the 11th through the 17th, we shut everything down on August 3rd. So right when Sunday happened, it was Monday. We shut down, and I went into the golf shop with our entire team, and we started flipping the shop. So we were boxing up all of our wing dough merchandise, throwing it into boxes, moving it downstairs. We had ordered quite a bit of merchandise for the U.S. Amateur with that logo, and we moved it up. So it was great for us to have everything out of the shop, pick up cobwebs that probably have been there for 10 years and straighten those areas out and clean and then put all this merchandise out. So it took us almost 4 days just to do that. We were able to get one day off. So one day off for that first week before we open. Um, and then our outside services were doing the same thing. We needed to get some golf carts that were arriving for all the rules officials. Still haven't quite figured that one out. Why they need to have golf carts with no tops on it when it's to go under the ropes, but at an amateur there aren't any ropes. So I figured that one out. So we had 80 golf carts that were delivered, and then a bunch of multi-passenger golf carts for the rules officials and for us to transport volunteers where they needed to go. So it was our outside service team working hard on getting all of that and positioning it, watching the USGA come up and create signage and putting all of their signage out on the golf course so that everybody knows where to go and little fun things to do while you're out there. So we were helping with that, helping with logistics and getting everything ready for the range. So there was quite a few things that we did for prep work. I mean, it was 10, 12-hour days for us all the way up until we got to the championship. The Friday before is when the players can arrive and hit golf balls on the range. So it was full go for our volunteers and our staff up on the range that Friday. It officially started Saturday and Sunday with practice rounds for them, which did both golf courses. So now we're really into the show. And then the tournament started up on that Monday, the 11th. So there was quite a few things that we did, and then all of a sudden it just popped up. There's a players. There's 300 plus players that are here, and their families and caddies, and it's like woo, it's a zoo. But it's always busy at the Olympic Club, so it almost felt like it was just another day for us.
For sure. That's awesome. Well, I'm so happy that your team was able to be so involved and, obviously putting in those long hours, which kind of leads me to my next question. Obviously there at Olympic, you have many PGA members on staff, some really great, assistant pros and some staff members there. And so maybe talk about how great of an experience that is for them, for their resume, for future, what did they learn through that process that can help them moving forward in their career?
Yeah, yeah. I told them, I mean, so the big thing is my messaging to the entire staff was have fun. You're going to be putting a long hours in, but you need to go out there and enjoy it. You need to reap the benefits of what this championship is all about. Go out and watch the players, take an hour break, do whatever you need to do just to get out there and have some fun. And they all did, and it was great. And we all worked as a team and handled the busy parts, and it was fabulous. But I also encourage them to take a lot of pictures. Make sure you're taking pictures of the golf shop, take pictures of the trophy, take pictures of the setup, take pictures of the ADA carts that are out there. Everything that you need to do for this championship, take pictures of it because we're going to work on building a portfolio. So as our professionals are looking for their dream jobs, not a lot of our golf professionals have been involved in major championships or big events like that. So to have them be able to enjoy it, learn from it, and then also use that for future experiences when it goes down to resume building and portfolio building, and then getting in the room for interviews and trying to get their dream job. That's going to be extremely beneficial for them. Um, the whole planning part, the whole championship was just absolutely incredible for them too, because they're learning about communication. They're learning about all the pre-planning that's going on. They're learning about all of the duties that they have to take care of. So there's a lot of great things that they were learning to build from a major championship, and it was awesome for them to compliment us by saying, Matt, we do this for our invitationals all the time. This is just a bigger scale. We've got guests that are here. We have spectators, but we do all this already. And it's really impressive to see that a major championship like that, a big championship, it's not much different than what we do on a day-to-day basis with our tournaments. So it's just a grander scale, and there's a lot more pieces to the puzzle there. So really beneficial for everyone.
Yeah, how cool is that? That's awesome. And thanks for your leadership and your mentorship of your staff. And going through something like that is so special. So I'm excited for your team to have that experience, and it's not going away anytime soon at Olympic, which we will get to here shortly. But I want to circle back to the merchandise comments. Your shop looked amazing. I was in there. I bought some stuff. I wanted to buy more, but I had to limit myself. But we guys were able to be creative, weren't you, and kind of come up with your own ideas. I saw one of the head covers had some kind of shout outs to San Francisco with the bridges and all that. And you guys got really creative with it. So maybe talk a little bit about how were sales that week? What did you guys do to kind of, revamp the shop? And, what was your thought process with that?
Yeah, little interesting, and this is kind of a learning curve for all of us. As I worked with Hazeltine and worked with Cherry Hills, and they had two different sites for their championships. So to learn how their merchandising strategy was and what we wound up doing was a little bit different. It was a very busy championship for us. I didn't do a tent. I did everything in our golf shop. Our golf shop's about 1,000 square feet. So we made sure that there was a lot of room that was people can move around. I took some of the chairs that were out there that our members enjoy sitting in to watch television. I moved all of that out, and that became more retail space. So we did everything we could to increase the retail experience over at our club. And we had typical San Francisco weather. So there was fog, there was cold, there was a little bit of sunshine, there was a little bit of wind. I mean, it was a great championship, but we kept those doors open, and we were doing our best to limit the guests to come into our golf shop in order to give them a better experience when they came in. We just didn't want to have 300 people in a 1,000 square foot shop with full of merchandise. So we did a good job with monitoring that, and it was great. The merchandise that we brought in, it was a lot of head covers, a lot of great goods. We partnered with quite a few companies. Full Turn is our private label, so they created a lot of great opportunities for us. They also helped out with our uniforms, our volunteer uniforms, along with Ralph Lauren. So those are our biggest partners. We brought some other lines that were in there, Grayson, a little dabble of Grayson and whatnot. But our pricing strategy was a little off. So our first 4 days, our first day, we did $100,000 in sales, and that was just to the players and the family members. And then as the weekend progressed, and then we started the championship, our sales kind of sloughed off. And I looked at it and I said, you know what? I think we're a little aggressive with our pricing. It was just a little bit higher than what we should do. We priced it more for like what our membership is, but the general public isn't our membership. So we went and we revamped our merchandising strategy, and we had some time. And to me, if I put a for sale sign up in the golf shop anywhere at any time, that equals defeat for me. So I don't believe in those. So what I did was we had our team in the beginning of the morning. We restickered a lot of our merchandise just to bring the prices down, and that helped with our merchandise sales. So for the whole week, I'm giving out numbers. It's no secret. We did $800,000 worth of sales, which is really impressive for a U.S. amateur. So a lot of great unique things that we had in here. Stuff that it's built a lot of pride with our membership. What I wanted to do for full boat was make sure that our members were sick and tired of the logo before they got to the amateur. So I had a lot of amateur gear that was sprinkled throughout the shop for over the last year. Once we announced, or once Hazeltine was over with the 124th amateur, I started putting out amateur gear for our membership. So there's been a lot of pride and a lot of build up for that week, and then we killed it with the shop. So it was a great experience for all.
So cool. Well, congratulations. That's amazing. And also just a perfect story and example of adapting, right? You guys had to adapt a week of, and sometimes you have to make those changes. So good job and congratulations. That's huge. Talking a little bit about the players, there were some really cool player storylines, right? Obviously, with Mason Howell winning it, he's the third youngest to ever do it. You had John Daly, the second out there that was, I was watching him a little bit, and obviously his story with his father, and then you had Niles Shields Donegan over the weekend, just local guy that was bringing a lot of crowds. So maybe tell us about some cool stories with some of the players, maybe some of their families, and what was interesting that you learned about some of these guys.
Yeah, so one quick story which I thought was kind of cool is John Daly Jr. He gets done with his match and he's going into the semifinals, I think it was. And anyway, so he gets done with his match, and I have our director of instruction, John Stahlschmidt. I wanted all our team to be involved with the championship, and John was driving shuttle. So we were picking up players at the end of the match, and they were in sprinter vans, and they were driving them back up to the clubhouse. So John gets John Daly Jr. in here. He just won his match, and he gets all settled into the van, and all of a sudden the phone rings, and he grabs it out of his bag and he answers the phone. He's like, "Hey, Dad, how you doing?" So it's kind of cool that John Daly, here he is. He's calling to congratulate his son who didn't attend, and if he got into the finals, that's when John was going to show up, and we're looking at like, all right, where are we going to park his RV when he shows up, or whatever he's going to do. So that was kind of a cool experience. And then Nile, when we were really excited for him, it brought out all of Mill Valley. It's just right around the corner on the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge, right?
Yeah.
So on Saturday we had 4,200 spectators. It was huge. Great people that were following, and all of a sudden he gets knocked out. He loses that match, and we're all bummed. We're bummed for him. We're bummed for the family. We're bummed for us. We're thinking that the crowds all of a sudden are going to diminish to 2,200 for on Sunday, and we wound up having 4,800. We had more people arrive on Sunday than we did on Saturday. So that was a really cool experience for us. But Niall, he went down into our Champions Bar, which is our members' dining area. Have a great time. We built out this great deck, and he spent a couple hours there every day afterwards, and celebrating and just cheering. Everybody's just wonderful. So even though he lost his match, I know I would be completely bummed. He was down there celebrating with our members. They were celebrating with him. It was really great. And then we're getting ready to close up the shop, and he and his crew come up into the golf shop, and I go up to Niall. It was so fun to watch you. And he was all smiles. He says, "Oh my God, what a great time. You guys did a great job with this championship. I love it here. I gave it a good show. It was a good run, but I can't thank you enough for hosting the championship." I mean, just the nicest kid, right?
Yeah.
So it was, I would have been just demoralized. Oh my God, I can't believe I didn't. This kid was just so happy to be there. So that
That's
was a great story. And then with Mason, Mason Hall is just unbelievable, and just how far that kid hits it. Um, his coach is Bill Connolly, and Bill Connolly is director of golf over at Glen Arvin in Georgia. And I got to know Bill over the years, but I didn't realize that was his coach up until I saw him in our golf shop, and I'm like, "Hey, what are you out here for?" I coach Mason. So that was great. And then afterwards, Bill contacted me and he says, "Hey, is there any chance I can get some U.S. amateur flags? I need about 150 of them." He's going to have Mason sign them and give them away to friends and family. And I said, "Absolutely." Contacted PRG, got that all rolling so that he could order some flags. So really great people. But it was so nice that all of the players, I got notes afterwards. Not all of them, but I got notes from players saying, "Thank you so much for hosting. It was nice meeting you." I had people from around the country saying, "I've got a player that's here. Can you go and say hello to him, make him feel comfortable?" Which I did. So it was great to meet all those people. So lots of kudos from the players about the Olympic Club, and a lot of great kudos from the USGA for us hosting the site. It was really great to see. And for me personally, I learned that everything I learned about the golf swing is completely thrown out the window, because now you have ground forces that you have to use, angles of attack, and everything in TrackMan and balls, and so now I'm swinging out of my shoes just to try to hit it further. So it was a great championship.
Oh, that's awesome. Wow, great stories. And I mean, yeah, Niall, that's so good to hear about that. And he just has a great spirit, and you could tell from the TV, but I'm so happy that he did that and was gracious with you guys, and getting those notes from people means a lot too. So awesome. Very, very cool.
Yeah, really
Um,
cool.
Last question kind of here for me, and we'll wrap up on USAM. But obviously, this isn't the last time you guys will be hosting championships in the next couple of years. So we have the 2028 PGA Championship coming back to Olympic, a couple of years away, and then we have the 2033 Ryder Cup. So talk us through that. Have they already start coming out for kind of prep work for that, and what did you learn that you can maybe take forth for those tournaments?
Well, we're very proud with our partnership with the USGA. We've had some great major championships out here with all the U.S. Opens, the Women's Open, four ball championships, amateur championships. We've had a great partnership with the USGA, and we continue to do so. But we decided that we wanted to bring the PGA of America in the mix. We never had them here before, and it's a different experience. So yes, we're hosting the 2028 PGA Championship and the 33 Ryder Cup, and we're really excited about that. So PGA of America, who's never been here before, came in here just this beginning of the spring, and they're actually talking about dropping a mobile unit in our parking lot so they can start looking at corporate sponsorships and identifying those partners for this championship and also for the Ryder Cup. They started looking at infrastructure. And it was really cool to sit down in this map, and they were able to bring up Google Earth and start dropping out all the different hospitality tents and equating how much money that equals and looking where they're going to place it. And it was funny because without even seeing what the USJ did, they're dropping in the exact same spots where we had our US Open Championship. So really great to see that. But they're going to be here in the fall, probably December, and they're going to start working towards the 2028 PGA Championship and seeing what kind of infrastructure we could keep through the Ryder Cup in 33. And just like what I've been doing with the USGA and the Amateur Championship, and we're hosting the Women's Amateur Championship in 30. So I will be attending the Women's Amateur Championships to see how that's been built out. And I've gone to just about the last three the last three PGA Championships. And now I'm going to the Ryder Cup here at Bethpage in order to support that for a future host site. So we're very excited. It does seem like it's a little bit of a difference in championships with the USGA and the PGA Championship, and one might be more towards the fan base, and the other one might be more towards the championship. So really excited to see how that plays out and our new partnership with the PGA of America.
Awesome, Matt. Yeah, and we're obviously excited here at the section level to help support you with that. And the section does get to help with volunteers and things like that. And so we're looking forward to working with you guys moving forward. So we're excited, and congrats on everything you're doing. That's so exciting. So thanks for being with us today, Matt. That's so fun to hear a little bit about behind the scenes for the US Amateur, and congratulations on such a great event, and really appreciate all your service to our board of directors and what you do here in NorCal. So thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be a part of this, and I'm looking forward to listening to Pat and her story. So thanks for letting me join in.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. All right, now on to Pat. No question, a very accomplished golfer on many levels, junior, amateur, professional. We're going to talk a little bit about her journey into the PGA, but let's talk about a huge event that you just played in about 3 weeks ago down here in Southern California, hosted at San Diego Country Club, the Women's US Open, Senior Women's US Open, T20 finish, I believe. So some nice playing there. I was out there one day. It was great. It was fun for me to see a lot of old friends that I hadn't seen since probably junior golf days, and now they're playing in the Senior Women's Open. So no jokes about that, anybody, but really great. The golf course is one of my favorites. So we'd just love to just open it up to you, Pat, to talk about your experience and the golf course.
Yeah, like you said, I played there. I think it was about 3 weeks ago, and it was a lot of fun. San Diego Country Club was the host, and the golf course was in great shape. I don't know if any of you guys have played there before, but I know in the past there used to be a lot of trees, and they've taken the trees down. So the like I said, the greens were tough. They made the rough pretty high for us, especially for the older gals that we are. But they had to do something for for the defense. So that, like I said, the greens definitely was what you needed to be on the correct part of the green to have a chance for birdie and hopefully just make par, because there's times where if you're above the pin, the ball can get away from you. And I mean, you can put it right off the green. They were just so fast, and a lot of undulations. And the golf course is actually that way too, where you didn't get many flat lies, which made it tough for a lot of the women. But but no, I had a great time. It's always fun to play in a USJ event. The way they set up the golf courses, it's a championship golf, and that's what's so much fun for all of us.
Yeah, it really was. And so much history at San Diego Country Club with Billy Casper and Mickey Wright. I think they unveiled the Mickey Wright statue that week of the event, which was really cool. And just so much history there. And all of the trophy cabinets, if you will, in that clubhouse are pretty impressive if you take the time to stop and look at everything that's in there. So did you have a chance to do that? And I know you respect the history and tradition of the game so much.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, every time you go in to go eat, like you said, the whole trophy case was right there, and there was everything there, and the history of San Diego Country Club with Mickey Wright being out there also. From I mean, I think she grew up there.
Mhm.
I want to say maybe her last U.S. Open that she had won was at San Diego Country Club. And you had a couple of local players. Jill McGill had won the U.S. Am maybe there. I think it was the U.S. Am, who's at San Diego Country Club. But then you have people like Lita Lindley, who won the U.S. Seniors, who is from San Diego. You know, Liz, I don't know if you guys know Liz Benson. She was the teaching pro out there, and she passed away last year from cancer, and she was out there, and so that was on my mind quite a
Yeah.
bit, just because we're around the same age, and we grew up playing junior golf and college golf together. So there was definitely a lot of history out there, and it's sad because they're going to be tearing down the golf course. I believe next year, and actually not just redoing the golf course, but they're going to be rerouting it. And so it's going to be interesting to
Yeah.
see. I mean, the golf course was great. It was in great shape. And I don't know why they're doing that, but they are doing that. And
Yeah.
so it'll be interesting to see, how that comes out.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned they took all the trees out, I believe. I mean, that wasn't that long ago. I'm gonna guess maybe 5 or so years ago. Maybe it's been a little bit longer because time's moving pretty quickly. But and now to do it again, to your point, it's gonna look very different. It's gonna be a completely different golf course. So interested to see how that turns out for sure, because it is just such a special place and historic place. And Liz's spirit was definitely out there with all of you that week for sure.
Definitely.
Let's talk a little bit about. I want to wrap up sort of the playing aspect of this. So, how much are you playing competitive? Because that's playing at a pretty high level. So, what does your year look like as far as how many events are you playing? Whether that's on the Legends tour or whatever you might be
Yeah.
playing in.
I'm not, I was, had been working and with Titleist, I'm not, so wasn't able to play that much. I play the LPGA seniors, and then I'll play the US seniors. And then I play a couple of Legends events where a lot of it is fun because it's a partner deal. So I partner up with either Julie Inkster or Wendy Ward, and we play in these different things. And I do a lot of I try to support our local, PGA programs, and play in a lot of the women's events. I've played in the seniors. I've played in just the regular PGA, like Mondays or what have you, and that's been a lot of fun. But no, I don't get out as much as I like to, but hopefully it'll turn around, and I'll get out there and play a little bit more.
Awesome. Let's talk a little bit about, I mean, we mentioned early on that not only are you an LPGA member, but you're also a PGA of America member, which I don't think enough of us know that. And so I'm really interested to hear your journey, from LPGA tour player, very accomplished tour player, and when you decided to retire from playing full time, take us down what that journey looked like, and why did you decide to become a PGA member? We're certainly thrilled that you did, but would love to hear that story.
Yeah, it started back, after college. I back way back in the day, and shoot, in the early 90s, I actually got into the LPGA and the PGA programs back then. Before I went out on tour, and went through, did the PAT, had to start doing my workbook, and then got my card, and so went out and played for 21 years on tour and enjoyed every bit of it. Decided to be home a little bit more with the family. Um, but then I took a job at San Jose State as the assistant golf coach, and I just felt that I can learn a lot more and help the team if I got into the programs. And so looked into both the LPGA and the PGA, and I felt that the PGA had a little more to offer for me, for me learning, and so I did it that way. I went through, tested out because I had done all that other stuff, but I still
Mm.
had to go through and take, level one, two, and three. Passed all that, and I didn't have to do my PAT again, but
I would
I
hope not.
but I mean, I enjoy, being in the PGA program. Like I said, I learn a lot. I get on a lot of these calls. I learn a lot about the game, and there's so many different aspects of the game, not necessarily just playing, but teaching. Just being part of, staying in the game, I should say. And that's what I did, and I just kept with it. So I enjoy it. I'm glad that this is here because I have you guys, and it's to me it's a lot of fun. And like I said, I like to stay involved and stay in the game.
Yeah, that's great. You mentioned playing at the section level, and I know you all in Northern Cal, like we do here in Southern Cal, have a women's division, have some women's events. I think you have your women's section championship next month. We just wrapped ours up this week, and I love that. I wish that we would have more of our women PGA members play. I think it's oh, I haven't, posted a competitive score in so long, and I don't, believe me, I understand that. But just getting out, and that's why we got into the game, and just the social and the networking, the career networking alone is just so valuable. So maybe speak to that. Maybe we have some women on listening that might get inspired to play a little bit more.
Yeah, if I was in town and had the day off, I would definitely go out and play just to support it. It seems like we get about, I know Caitlin, you would probably know more, but we probably get in between about 5 to 10 women playing each event. And it's been all over the place. To me, it's a lot of fun to go and play other golf courses. I don't get out and do that very much, and so this gives me that opportunity. And like you said, the networking, getting to know the other lady professionals out there in the PGA program. That's been a lot of fun for me just to get to know them. We're all in this doing the same thing, trying to achieve the same goals, and like I said, it's been a lot of fun. I don't know how they feel about me playing in them, but I hope that they're okay with me supporting it. And it's run really well. Catherine Marin, she does it all. It seems like, and Denise Bondurant, she does it. Both of them together. It seems like they do a great job, and keep us posted, keep us updated on all what's coming up, and they try to get as many of us out there to play as much as we can.
I can say
Work
right now,
sometimes, huh?
I would say I can say right now we love having you out there, Pat, especially during our cup match these years because you have played on our last two cup matches against the NCGA, and we tied last year, and you were a huge part of that. And just having you out there is so good for the ladies. So yes, you are always welcome, and we love having you out there.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that was a lot of fun last year. It
Yeah,
was
it
so close
was.
coming down to the end, but
I know.
we're going to get them next time. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
next year.
That's our goal. We're
Yeah.
going to get these amateurs. I mean, they play all the time. Like we were saying, we don't get to play very much, so it was good for us to tie them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. And Caitlin and I have talked about for too long now, but we're gonna hold our feet to the fire and talk about a team match with Northern Cal and Southern Cal sections. So more to come there. But well, as we wrap up, I'd love to get your perspective, and Matt would love to get your insight or early predictions on Ryder Cup. Coming up soon, couple weeks. Pat, you've been in that position that Keegan's in as captain. You've been in the position of a player. I know a lot of our team is up in Napa this week, kind of getting some last minute practice in, and tell us what you think these players are feeling, and tell us what you think Captain Keegan is feeling as we get closer and closer.
Well, I have to say, Captain Keegan, he's probably feeling much better right now. I'm sure the day where he had to make those decisions or make the picks
Mhm.
is probably one of the hardest days of his would be of his golfing career.
Yeah.
That's just, anytime you have to tell someone no, it's very hard. But I think they're on the right. They're doing the right thing. They're playing this week. They're just preparing themselves, and I think that's the main thing, right? Trying to get together as a team. I heard I was out at the Walker Cup. I saw Bryson out there, and I don't know if he's out here playing at Silverado. Not He's not playing at Silverado, but out there just showing up to be around the team. I don't know, but I heard he was. But again, I haven't been there, so I haven't seen him out there. But just for them to get together, I think that's the camaraderie is there. I think that's what the U.S. Lacks is the camaraderie, and compared to Europe. So it'd be interesting to see how they play. We have a great team. I mean, on paper, we look awesome. So, if they go out there and play, team play is a little bit different, obviously, than individual. But he's with Keegan as the captain, and just just the way he is. I think he's going to be great. I think the team is, totally behind him, and that's the most important part is getting them to respect him and really want to play for him, play for the country, and play for their teammates.
Awesome. Matt, any insight or early predictions here?
It's great for them all. As Pat said, they're all playing up there in Napa, and Jason Saucy from the PGA, who's in charge of the championships, the partnership specifically. He raised his hand, he said, because they were asking if someone would want to go out to Napa and kind of help them out. And he did, and he didn't realize how much work it was going to be. But he's out there right now helping with the team and the family. So they're building some really great camaraderie this week, leading into this Ryder Cup. So I think the team is turning into a family. And I think that because of that, that gives them more of a competitive edge against Europe. So I think they're going to pull off a great victory here. I think they've got some really great players, and I think they've got some really great personalities to work with, and I think they're all going to be gelled and pull out a great victory for the United States. So it's going to be fun to watch for sure, and it's certainly for me personally, it's going to be fun to be there.
Absolutely. I'm
Real
going as
quick.
well, my first time, and I think Caitlin's going. Pat,
Yeah.
you gonna join us?
You know what? I had planned on going and booked tickets and hotel and everything else, and then, as my husband and I were looking at it, we're like, this is a lot of work. So I think I canceled the plane, I canceled the room. So I just don't. I think we'll see more when we're on watching it on TV. So
For
I
sure.
can't wait
For
for it.
sure.
I mean, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
It will. It will.
I was over actually at the Procore yesterday because we did have two staff members tea hosting. So we as the host section, Len Dumas, who was our past executive director, is over there as director of golf. So he usually gives us a couple spots with tea hosting. So we had one staff member on 1 and 1 on 10, and I can definitely vouch and say it felt like a mini Ryder Cup just watching these guys tee off. They were all back-to-back tee times, all the Ryder Cup guys, and honestly, the group that watched Scotty, I mean, I was probably 7 or 8 people back and I could barely see. And this is in Napa. So I can't even wait for it to be at Bethpage Black. It's going to be unbelievable. But it was pretty cool in the first tee box. Keegan and his wife came over and stood at the tee box and watched every one of the groups come off, giving him a hug. Congrats, go play well. And just seeing him as a leader do that was really cool. And so I think to your point, I think he's going to be a great captain. I think they're going to win. I think they're building a lot of great team spirit. So it was fun to watch over there at Napa yesterday.
Exciting.
Very cool. All right. Well, thank you both, Matt and Pat, for your time and sharing your insights and your experiences. And we just appreciate you taking the time out of your day and would welcome you to stay on. And at this time, we'll turn it over for our legislative update from Executive Director of the California Alliance for Golf, Craig Kessler.
Is that a way of announcing that the fun part is over and now we get down to business?
Well, I didn't say that, but okay.
Okay, so, before I launch in, today's a significant day. Technically, it's supposed to be the last day of the 2025 legislative session, but they're jammed up a little at the end, so they've extended it at least one more day, and who knows, they may extend it into Sunday as well, and I'll get into those details in a moment. But I want to start off with something that I'm aware of every day, and Nikki, I think you're aware of because of your great involvement with the California Alliance for Golf, but most citizens, and certainly that includes most golf professionals, are not aware of the following because so much of our national media, so much of our focus is on national politics in Washington, D.C., for good reason. We all live in America. Even California is in America, that we pay attention to that. But I want to point out, don't get carried away with that because 95 to 98% of what affects the game of golf, a golf facility, the lives and fortunes of PGA professionals and golf course superintendents and golf course management companies and all the rest and the suppliers and so forth. These are decisions that are taken at the state level, the regional level, and the local level for the most part. Now, they're somewhat affected by what happens nationally, but that effect is often tangential. And when it comes down to the politics, I want to remind everyone, the headlines you're reading are one branch of government is held by a 49.6% popular vote majority. The House of Representatives, which is almost, everyone will tell you, is almost sure to flip to the other party in 2026, is held by now a 2-vote majority. The Senate's by 3, which is effectively 4 because Vice President Vance can break ties. That's a little bit more secure in terms of that, but even that, the way things are going, may not hold. However, we live in California, and in California, much was made that Kamala Harris only got 60% of the popular vote in the last election, as opposed to the usual Democratic 63 to 65%. The legislature remains 2/3 supermajority Democratic. Almost all of the action within the state is within that party. I'm not going to comment on whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's a thing that we have to pay heed to. So don't get carried away when you read national headlines and whatever you may think the zeitgeist is moving forward. Keep in mind, as everyone in life, most people sell something. Some people sell insurance, some people sell bonds, some people sell golf equipment, some people, advocates sell narratives, ideas, facts that are more important than other facts, and so forth. And the audience that we sell to in that realm is in California, and that's the audience that we need to appeal to. And it'll become apparent in a couple of minutes why I've started off with this caveat. And just a reminder, and it's more of a reminder for me because I take these things for granted because that's the world I wake up to every day, but that's not the world that most of the people on this call wake up to every day, and I understand that. So let me get back to the actual update. Tomorrow is now scheduled to be the last day of session because they are so jammed up, and there's a requirement in this state that a bill must be in print for 72 hours before you can take a vote on it and move it out of your house, and onto the other one, to the governor. So they've had to extend. In large part, I think, due to some bills having to do with oil drilling in the Central Valley, but and which does not affect the golf industry unless you happen to be next to an oil well in Kern County or something. So, but beyond that, but nonetheless, that gives you an idea that when we get to the end of the session, there's quite a flurry. Here's what we do know. As I've been predicting all along, Governor Newsom's effort to fast track or expedite the normal processes for pushing the Delta Conveyance Project, which is of great interest to the golf industry because we're an industry that's water dependent, and anything which goes to the level of focus on supply, which is why we supported Senate Bill 72, which is passed on to the governor's desk, is of importance to an industry that's as water dependent as we are. And this doesn't just affect the southern part of the state. Many parts of the central and northern part of the state are also dependent upon imports, although slightly different sources of those imports, but imports nonetheless. Well, that effort failed. We anticipated that it would fail, but it set the stage for Governor Newsom in his last year in office. The sense is he's going to focus on, he's not the first governor, he's probably the fifth or sixth, on trying to leave a legacy of doing something to begin the process of protecting the long-term supply integrity of the Southern California Water Project. Along those lines, I think if you've listened to this, you know that the governor used that as a chip and then ultimately held the budget hostage back in June to a number of CEQA reforms which had floundered in the legislature, and he strong-armed that through. And part of the promise was that at the end of the session there would be some additional bills that would mitigate or modify that a little bit to the satisfaction of some Delta members of the state legislature, some native tribes, and some environmental organizations that were none too pleased with the strong arm action at the end of the session. Well, those things failed yesterday. They didn't fail because those reforms were rejected. They failed because they didn't go far enough. So those will come up in 2026, and I suspect there will be strong support for sort of reforming some of the reforms that came out of June with respect to the California Environmental Quality Act. Now, this is a double-edged sword for golf, as I've often pointed out. It's good news in one sense because it indicates that politically, some of the very, very strong hold of environmental organizations, some of which are very anti-golf, some of which are not. We work with some of them. Never forget that. Their political influence, which continues to remain strong, but it would appear that it's ebbing. It's not nearly as strong as it used to be, and that's a factor we need to take into consideration, given what I explained, that this is part of the audience that we're talking to. Nonetheless, this is a little bit of a move at the end to kind of fight back against that a little bit as well. So this is why we pay attention to those things. And I say it's a double-edged sword because so many of those reforms to the Environmental Quality Act, it's great. It may expedite construction projects and the costs of construction at golf courses, and that's a good thing. The double-edged part of that, or the double-edged side, the other side of that sword, is that most of it is being driven by an acute need to stimulate the construction of housing. And so when you look out at urban California, I think many are aware of the 2 runs of the Public Golf Endangerment Acts that put the municipal stock in the state in danger of giving free money to developers to take those golf courses and chop them into affordable housing complexes. That was a panic. We dealt with that very, very successfully. And I think we put that to bed. But even if you're in the very Tony if you're private sector, keep in mind that Article 10, Section 13 of the California Constitution sets a property tax valuation rate for golf courses at an extraordinarily generous level, more generous probably than any other state in the union. And while I don't think anyone has ever suggested going to a highest and best use valuation method, certainly something that amounts to a higher and better is on the radar screen of an awful lot of what I would call reform organizations in the state of California. And they very much speak the language of that supermajority I just talked about, that is our audience that we need to pay heed to. And of course, if you listen to any of Malcolm Gladwell's screeds, you know it's not the game of golf that so much caused his ire. It's the fact that the whole thing was stimulated by the property tax valuation issue, and that will come back to haunt. Now that requires a vote of the people to overturn, but I have no doubt, should that ever make it to a ballot, it would overwhelmingly pass. So while some of the clubs, I'm going to say Matt Jordan's club in San Francisco wouldn't be in danger, and some of the very Tony ones could easily absorb, I think, those higher and better use tax valuation rates. But an awful lot of private clubs would simply decide that with the cost of labor, the cost of construction, the cost of water in particular, continuing to spike up and put pressure on a lot of private clubs in the state, This one, now the taxes go up and it almost becomes, the proverbial straw that breaks the camel's back, and they'll begin selling out and we'll lose those golf properties as well. And the importance of this is I know somebody listening is my successor at the Southern California Golf Association, Kevin Fitzgerald, who at the opening of the Community Golf Summit in Long Beach a couple of months ago in July, which was a very successful event supported by all the organizations in the California Alliance for Golf, simply posed a question to this audience of leaders, said there were 460 golf courses in the state, in Southern California. How many in the room expected there to be 500 10 or 15 years from now? Not one hand went up. He asked how many expected there to still be 460. Not one hand went up. I think that audience told itself how critical this problem is and how we need to continue to focus on all those things, including those things that appear to be tangential to golf because it's not necessarily in the bill, it's not necessarily in the media update, but still it affects us. And that's why we follow it, because that's the audience with which we're trying to sell some things. So I would suggest the following if I'm drawing some grandiloquent conclusions before the session ends. And there are some other things that may or may not happen. There's always the possibility, but if something's not in print by this time, we're probably okay. So I will still stick with the conclusion I've been drawing about this session, that for us, it went very well. There was one bill that we identified that we needed to beat, and we did, and that was Senate Bill 51 that would have put us on permanent standard time. And I expect that to come back, and I expect it to come back in Washington, Oregon, and Nevada as well. As I pointed out, there are true believers in that in standard time, full time, and they are backed by some scientific evidence which is quite valid. It's just that in life we don't make informed decisions about broad things based upon only one small aspect thereof. That's what they're doing. That's what all single issue groups do. And I think we'll continue to be successful, but we'll have to be vigilant. In terms of everything else, nothing what I would term evil made it through. And some of the bills that we supported that go to the issue of the integrity of the long-term water supply and the focus on long-term water supply are all moving forward to the governor's desk. And I anticipate that this year the governor will sign them for a lot of reasons. Because there is again, when broad strokes, I think I can be as bold enough to suggest that politically within that dominant majority, and environmentalism and labor are both key parts of that dominant majority's base, and if you want to call it a base of something that big. And environmentalism's power within that is waning, but labor is not. Never forget that. Labor is, I wrote a piece a couple of years ago and I went back and read it. I had occasion to read it this week because it's something that I don't have time to go into details with at the LA County Board of Supervisors that went well for golf. And it was important that it went well, but it indicated to me that if anything, labor's roar is going to continue to get louder and louder and louder. And that's also the audience we need to appeal to. So never forget, every day that audience is judging golf by the degree to which it contributes, by the degree to which every time a lawmaker or an opinion maker or an influencer, I guess I ought to be modern, drives by a golf course, whether private or public, whether municipal, daily fee, resort, doesn't matter what it is, to the degree to which they think, I'm glad that golf course is in my district or in my community, even if I don't play golf, because of all the positive things it brings, that's what we need to promote, because that will be the basis upon which we can perhaps grow from 460 facilities in the South and roughly 900 and some odd in the entire state. The dynamic's the same in the North as it is in the South. It's just, but that's neither here nor there. The political dynamic, that is, then it's a good thing. And I have to add, because I know I'm on a bit of a soapbox right here, there are places in this country where the economic heft of golf matters a great deal to lawmakers and to general citizens. There's one place in this state where that's very, very, very resonant as well, and that's the Coachella Valley. With 121 golf courses, the economy is very dependent on the health of the golf economy, and that's a good argument to make. But don't forget, and I can say this in this audience because it's a friendly audience and it's a golf audience, In this fourth largest economy in the world, golf represents 0.03% of the GDP. As an economic value, if golf were to disappear tomorrow, no one would notice. As a lifestyle value, 3.5 million people play this game. What they would lose in terms of recreation and what communities would lose in terms of a place where charity is raised, what communities would lose in terms of heat relief, green spaces, tree canopies, and all those things that are also rising in this world. You know, turf was a dirty word 10 years ago, and so were trees. Now they're becoming positives. You're noticing more and more. That's also the audience we're appealing to. To the degree to which that case is made, I can tell you as maybe the person who's not the only advocate, but the chief advocate, we defeated the Public Golf Endangerment Acts, not with our economic impact, but with our quality of life impact, period, hard stop. I always need to point that out. So important to not get in over our skis at Washington headlines. Important not to get in over our skis on the fact that we can see that whether it's the Sites Reservoir or the Delta Conveyance Project or CEQA reforms, that the hard grip of environmentalists, and boy, don't they know it, so they're going to organize and redouble their efforts. We need to pay attention to that. They're losing a little bit of the clout, long-term clout that they've had. Labor continues to go up in terms of that clout. Pay attention to that. Let me simply close, because I always like to stop on time, despite my reputation, is to what can we look forward to in 2026? Well, one thing we can look forward to is we can't really anticipate what to look forward to, but as I explained, I do think we should anticipate another run of the standard time bill coming back. If we get lucky, maybe it won't. Better to be, I don't mind getting lucky. Also, in a more positive sense, the whole idea of the integrity of tee time reservations and who owns the reservations, just like hotels have had the issue, restaurants have had the issue, golf courses in the public sector have had that issue. And while we've developed some mitigations or salves in some of the municipal systems in the last year and a half or so, we also understand that where there's money to be made and technology and use of technology to make it, there will be folks who will find themselves way. So we're encouraged that in the state of New York, there is a bill that's been filed by some Long Island state senators, and I hope they make a deal out of this when the Ryder Cup gets to Bethpage, because the sponsor of this bill represents Bethpage, that on the same issue, it's not a surprise that New York or Los Angeles or Chicago or Atlanta or San Francisco or Houston will have the same issues. They're huge population centers where the land is valued, has introduced what they call a Birdie Act, not to be confused with the national one, that would do for golf what are called restaurant reservation anti-piracy acts in many states, and there's a bill alive in California, have done for the restaurant industry, and restrict third-party selling or selling those times or brokering those times to only those who have agreements with the facility. So those like Golf Now and others that have those agreements and are seen as allies and partners of golf facilities, that's not an issue for them. It's those who come in and try to exploit it. So we're going to take a look at what that and hope that, and we were already talking to New York, and the lobbyist for the Empire State Golf Alliance was thrilled to hear from us, and so forth. So we can create a little energy like the restaurant industry has to do that. That's something on a proactive basis we're looking at. Whether we get to it in 2026 may depend on a discussion of how the organizations can kind of clear up some of the, I won't call them jurisdictional, but some of the management issues with the California Alliance for Golf that are sort of held up at the moment or whatever. May depend on that. And of course, oftentimes these things, it takes a long time, even for powerful things, to sort of marinate and resonate in state politics. So with that, it's 10:59. So I'm gonna, I know I have a reputation sometimes for talking a little bit over my limit. I want to break that reputation. Thank you for listening to me. And I'll know more next week after the session actually ends sometime over this weekend. And continued good luck to the golf industry, because we're going to need.
Awesome. Thanks, Craig, for keeping us up to date as always. Very good updates there today, and appreciate you being here with us. we are right at 11 o'clock. So want to just shout out, obviously, all of our speakers this morning. So thank you, Matt. Thank you to Pat, and thank you to Craig for being with us this morning. It's been a great session. Housekeeping items. If you did call in, we have a few guys on the phone. Make sure that you let your section office know that it's you, because we can't see your name. And then our next chat will be in October. We probably have to change the date, so it's either going to be probably the 24th or the 31st, but we'll let you guys know. And we're going to have Rick Sessinghouse on the call, and he's actually Colin Morikawa's coach, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about teaching at the high level, as well as his mental golf flow code system that he uses as well. So it'll be very informative, especially after the Ryder Cup, watching Colin play. So Nikki, any last words before we hang up?
I think that's about it. Caitlin, thank you to our speakers, and everybody have a great weekend, and be kind to each other.
Well said. See you, everybody.